Okay, in this video, we're gonna make our own Apple stopwatch. If we don't put in any of these fields and we press start, you see it has the microseconds, seconds, and the minutes. We can pause, we can resume, and we can reset. Another cool thing is, let's say if you put an overflow number of minutes, like 70 minutes and 70 seconds, and you click start, it knows that that's 1 hour and 11 minutes and 10 seconds. See? Okay, I'm gonna reset and let's walk through this project. First, this is what I have for the HTML. It just has an H1, my stopwatch, and then one section with the ID menu container. And then inside, I just have the labels for the hours, minutes, seconds, and microseconds. And the button itself has an on click that will get all of the values from these inputs and pass it into this handle start function. Okay? Now, in index.js, I just have some pre-template styles, and this centers the whole thing thanks to display grid. And now I will define our function on the onClick. It was called handle start. So this is going to be function handle start. And instead, I'm going to use the ES6 spread operators, and I'll just call this args. And then in here, there's just console.log args. Let's see what we get. So if we do 1, 2, 3, 4, let me open the console right here. Okay. And if I click start, you see that we do get 1, 2, 3. And it doesn't seem like we're getting the 4. Let me see. Seconds dot input. And that's because I forgot to also do the milliseconds or microseconds input. So that's going to be ms input dot value. And remember, whatever ID you give in HTML, if it doesn't have a dash and it's one word, like these, mins input, hours input, that variable is automatically saved in index.js, and you don't have to declare a variable on it. So even on line 1, if I do console.log, and let's just pick one of these IDs. I'm going to select mins input, and I do that. Okay. When the page loads, you see that it selects the input, okay, just from the ID itself. Okay. All right. So we have all of that, and we have our args. And then we can do something like, let's do array destructuring. I'm going to do let, and this was hours, minutes, seconds, and microseconds. And all of this is just going to be equal to args because args is an array itself. Cool, right? Okay, let's move on. So when the user clicks start, I want to replace this whole inner HTML. So if we go to our HTML, this is the menu container. I want to replace all of its children. Okay? So in here, I would just paste this menu container. We have access to this variable because it's an ID. In the HTML will be equal to all of this. And this will render the hours, minutes, and seconds we get from the argument. But the OR operators make sure that if the user don't put anything, it's going to default to 0. So now if we click start, you see everything is 0. If I put 11 for hours, we get 11 here. Okay, now let's make sure that our stopwatch is actually counting correctly. So here, I inserted let my interval equals null. And then down here, I will say my interval is going to be equal to start interval function, which I'm going to define on the global scope function start interval. Okay. And what this has to do is that it has to return a set interval itself. Okay. Since it's being assigned to my interval, the return value has to be set interval. So set interval, and since we're doing microseconds, I like to run this every 10 milliseconds. Okay, so in our interval, what do we want to do? Well, first, I'm going to create an array, const ARR. This is going to be an array that's going to get all the text contents of these. So hours div.text content. Okay, and then we have hours, we have minutes, seconds, and we have milliseconds. So hours div, and then this was minutes div, seconds div, and this was microseconds div, like this. And I put all of these into an array. So now I can do array deconstruction, right? So now let me use let in case we have to reassign it later. So now we can say let, and then we can say hours, minutes, seconds, and ms is equal to the array ARR, but destructured. Okay, so now if we just do microseconds div.text content plus plus, let's see what happens. Cool, it actually starts to work, but our seconds and minutes are not converting properly. So before that, let's do an if statement. So if the microseconds that we got here is greater than 99, right? This means the microseconds text content being displayed should be reset to 0, and then the seconds dot text content should go up by 1. Let's see if this works. See, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. And because of how a stopwatch actually works, we can just actually nest 2 more if statements using procedural programming, because honestly, I think OOP and functional are like half retarded. You can just do another if statement in here, and now we can just say seconds, right? So if seconds greater than 59, then what are we going to do? Now we just move on to here. We take the seconds text content and we set it to 0, right? Then we take the minutes div, take its text content, and we're going to increase it by 1. So let's see if this works. Let's start with 56 seconds. 57, 58, 59, 60, and then it goes like that. Okay, I don't want it to go to 60. I just want it to go to 59, so I'll change this to 58. And we need 58 because our if check is before increasing the microseconds. Okay, so now we have 58. It increases to 59. This function gets called again. Now this if statement will run, right? It gets reset, and then we increase it right away. So let's do 57 seconds again, 58, 59, and then we get 1 minute like this. All right, so now we can do the same things here. So now if minutes is greater than 58, then we just take the minutes div, dot text content, same thing, set it to 0, and then the hours div, dot text content, plus plus. Okay, so let's set 59 minutes, 57 seconds. Okay, 58, 59 seconds. There you go. Now we get 1 hour and 0 minutes. Cool. Okay, so now let's work on our pause and our reset functions. The last problem we want to tackle is how our apps handle the overflowing correctly. If I put in 70 minutes, it should know it's 1 hour and 10 minutes, but right now it actually doesn't. In order to do this correctly, though, all these types have to be numbers. Right now they're type string because we're getting them from an onClick in the HTML. So easiest way for me is args is going to be equal to itself.math, click the string, and then I'm going to use math.round on the string, which also rounds and converts it to a number. So now if I do 5.88 hours, it's going to round it to 6 hours. Okay. And then now let's handle the overflows just by using procedural programming. Let's do if milliseconds is over 99, this is when we want to handle the overflow. Okay, so I would do const least common multiple is going to be equal to the microseconds divided by 100, but I want to round it. Actually, I want to math.floor it, and I can use the double tilde operator, which does the same thing for positive numbers. Okay, so let's say if the microseconds was 205, the least common multiple would be 2, right? And then the remainder would be 5. So const remainder will be equal to ms, and then I use the modulo operator, 100. Okay. So now this is microseconds. This will affect the seconds. Okay. So you can say seconds plus equals. This is why we have to convert it to a number in the first place, plus equals the LCM, okay? And then the milliseconds is equal to the remainder. Yep. Sorry, I got like a brain fart there. I wasn't sure what was going on. All right. And then for the rest, I would just paste it in for you like that. Okay. So first we handle the microseconds, then we handle the seconds, then we handle the minutes, right? So now if I put in 70 minutes and 70 seconds and I click start, it knows that's 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 10 seconds. Cool, right? Let's try again. If I do a bunch of big numbers like this, it knows that that's a lot of hours, right? And the correct minutes and seconds. Okay, I hope all of this was useful.